Hey guys, so today we are going to be discussing the ways to warm crab legs, and then in the meantime we're going to be interviewing the one and only SalmonCast host, Dustin Hamilton. In the meantime, before the interrogation begins, we're going to pass things over to Chef Nicole and start with the first method of preparing crab legs.
The first thing we're going to do today is bake our Dungeness crab in some butter, white wine vinegar, parsley, and lemon.
That's good. So you're just adding all of that to your pan? Like you don't have to do anything beforehand, just dump it in?
I just put it in and I'll give it a little mix around and
Awesome.
we'll stick it in the oven for about 15 minutes.
Great. What temperature on the oven?
400 degrees.
This Dungeness crab is already fully cooked. Actually, all of our crab options are fully cooked. So you just need to thaw them and warm them to the temperature you want to eat them at. So like to thaw, we just took these clusters yesterday, right? And put them last night, put them in the fridge, and then this morning they were ready to go. Awesome. Are you gonna throw the whole lemon peels right in there after you squeeze them?
Oh yeah.
It's so pretty. I love the bright green and yellow and the red. Dungeness crab is delicious. It's got a little bit more of a savory flavor, I would say, compared to others. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't think it's as sweet as the rest, but it definitely has that sweetness in it.
All right. So then into the oven, 400 degrees.
400 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes.
Awesome. So then we have these huge king crab legs. They're just beautiful. Like, it's crazy how huge they are.
My favorite way to do that is just put them in the oven for 15 minutes, just like that.
Okay.
At 400 degrees.
So no like water or anything. They just let them thaw overnight and then on the pan into the oven.
Yep.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. Well, while these roast, we're gonna go roast Dustin. Oh, sorry, interview Dustin.
Okay, well, hello and welcome to SalmonCast. We are podcasting today from the living room of Jen and Steve Kurian. They're not here, oddly enough, but they're pretty great about letting us use the living room anyways to do our podcast today, which is pretty exciting.
Very.
Yeah. So in case you haven't met Dustin, which is not true because he's podcast hosted every single podcast we've done so far. This is Dustin Hamilton, and today we're going to get to know everything about him because normally in every episode, he's asking the questions of other people. So the marketing team thought it would be a really exciting time to get to know Dustin Hamilton. So without further ado, we're going to go into our first question of the interrogation. So Dustin, who is Dustin Hamilton?
I would say that Dustin Hamilton is first and foremost a husband and father of two. I have two rambunctious school-aged children who are 14 months apart in age and are often mistaken as twins.
They've already made their debut on YouTube.
Yes, they think that they're famous from the few times that they've been featured in our videos. So yeah, I have two kids, live in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania.
What brought you to Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania?
So probably 5 or more years ago, my sister moved to Bloomsburg for a job that she took out of college. And when my family and I decided that we were going to move out of California, we were looking at various places around the country of where we wanted to move to. And because we had young children, we still kind of wanted to be close to family as we were where we were moving from. So we just moved here without knowing what it was like. Previously to coming to Bloomsburg, I used to travel a lot on Interstate 80, and the Buckhorn exit was always a convenient rest stop for when you were coming
very.
from New York City to Pittsburgh. So that's all I thought Bloomsburg was until I moved here.
So that's it. That's the only introduction you had to Bloomsburg, and you were like,
the Travel
"Let's-"
Plaza on Buckhorn exit.
and you were like, "Sis is there. We're moving."
Yep.
What a decision.
So we moved in 2020 during the pandemic. I drove across country 3 times to move all of our stuff that we had in California to here. We bought a house in Bloomsburg, sight unseen.
You guys are adventurous like that, from what I can tell.
Yeah. So we've remodeled the house that we initially bought, so it's been fun, and have ingrained ourselves in the community.
Yeah. Did the kids take part in that remodel? I'm curious.
No, my kids are not participants in the remodel process.
Interesting. Okay.
My wife and I tried to do as much as we could, or our skill sets allowed, and then once we got to a point of frustration, then we hired professionals to finish the job. Don't let Steve hear that.
Oh,
he would be
no.
disappointed.
Well, speaking of the kids, we're curious, what was the inspiration behind your kids' names? Because they're great names.
Yeah. So Charlie was not really anything other than, I think that was like a name that we had seen in a baby book, because Charlie is my firstborn daughter. And so when we found out we were pregnant, we were looking through the baby books as you normally do, checking out names. And we knew we wanted something unique. So Charlie was just something that we found. And then we changed the spelling to 2 E's on the end rather than the IE. And then Cash was Johnny Cash, is where his name came from.
Honestly, that's what I was going to ask you. And we just watched the Walk the Line movie the other night, and it just it pinged me in my brain. I was like, is that the inspiration behind Cash's name?
Yeah, so I'm a big Johnny Cash fan. So I had some very unique names that I threw into the hat before we landed on Cash that I pitched. None of which my wife was a fan of, but she was okay with Cash, so that's what we landed on.
That's awesome.
Sweet, yeah. And then you wound up at Kurian Enterprises. What was the fast track to that?
No fast track. So when I left California, we decided we were going to move. My wife is a trauma nurse, and so it was pretty easy for her to get a job in this area because of the medical community. So I knew that I wanted to get out of the commercial construction industry, which I had been in for 17 years in my career. It's all I've ever known. Mm-hmm. So I knew I wanted to get out, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when we moved here, I didn't really have a plan as far as what I was going to do for a living. And we weren't really in a position where it was like a time crunch with it. So I was like taking my time to figure it out. And when we moved, I was pretty much like a stay-at-home dad, essentially. I do everything for the kids.
That's the first thing I learned about you. There was Steve come into the office and be like, this guy's awesome. He's a stay-at-home dad. And I was like, you can like relate to that? Like what?
I was a temporary stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
For about 3 months, I was a stay-at-home dad, which I loved. It was fun. Because my career before that was very hectic, and as part of the reason why we moved was to make that transition away from the lifestyle that my previous career had. I was someone who, the commercial construction industry is a very intense, lots of money involved, lots of timelines. It's a very labor and physically intensive career, even when you're on the executive level.
Yeah.
So I would be gone. I would leave at 5 a.m, and I wouldn't be home until almost 8 o'clock at night every night. Not even get to tuck my kids in most nights. So it was a huge transition from that lifestyle to I was with them all the time.
Yeah.
And doing everything. So, how I got introduced to it was my brother-in-law, who's married to my sister in the area, is friends with Rich Green, who is a lead arborist at Susquehanna Tree Care. And he had told Dan about that they were looking for an operations manager. So I started to do some research and ask questions around the community about Steve. and everything I heard was like piqued my interest about who he was and what he was about. And so I made a decision that like I'm going to go work for this guy and see what's going on. So I applied, sent my resume for the tree care job and never heard anything back. And so then I saw on Indeed that there was an ad for a store employee at Wild for Salmon. And so I applied for it, which I knew I would get a call back, just if nothing else out of interest of why someone with my resume was interested in working at the store.
Definitely.
And so I just said, like, I'm just going to use this opportunity to get a meeting with Steve and then go from there. And so
It worked.
it did work.
Plan came together.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everybody who's watching or listening, Susquehanna Tree Care is another business that the Kurians own and operate here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. So that was, your in was not with Kurian Fisheries.
No, not at first. No,
Yeah.
I went to tree care and took that job and was there doing that for about a year and a half before moving over to help with salmon.
Great. Awesome.
Well, let's kick it back over to Nicole. I can smell the crab. It smells great. So let's see what she's got next. Welcome back.
So we'll be steaming our crab now.
Great.
So
Is this your pot?
it's my pot.
Yeah, you brought it. Okay, cool. It's nice. I like how you have to take the lid off.
It's
I wanna see what's in
definitely my parents from the 80s.
there. It works. It works. So it's got the steamer basket. I'm gonna lift it up just so people can see. And then there's some water in there,
So
obviously.
put a little bit of water on the bottom. Put your steamer pot in, and then you're just gonna.
You have to wait for the water to warm up before you put the crab in.
I mean, the water's already warm.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
So this is snow crab. Then they're kind of in the middle in terms of size. Again, still fully cooked, but you're just gonna warm it up to the temperature you want to eat it at.
Yeah.
And once they thaw out, they get more flexible. Just like she showed there, it was a little too tall for the pot, but
Squish
you
it
just
in.
bend them down in.
Put your lid on. Let it go for 8 to 10 minutes.
Great. And so this is another method that you can use. A lot of times, like something people more commonly have than like a big pot with a steamer basket is a lipped cookie tray. So you can just take your crab, put it on, add a little bit of water to the bottom, and then wrap it really tight in tin foil, and then poke a little hole in it so you have like one vent for your steam. But that's just a more like common, everybody has that in their kitchen type of way to warm your crab.
And temperature?
Ooh, I don't know. What would you say?
Probably 400.
400. I knew you'd know. And then length of time, I think we usually say like 12, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so you were talking about what you could do with the crab shells then. Do you want to talk about them more?
Yeah. So you can make yourself some crab stock, and you just fill a pot up with some water, onion, celery, throw a carrot in there, lots of garlic, bay leaf, and put your shells that you've already taken the meat out of and boil it for 30 minutes and have yourself a nice little stock.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. Would you say like for this amount of crab or like the 2 pounds that people would get on the website, like how many quarts of water or just enough to cover it?
Just enough to cover it.
Okay.
Usually it's your normal bigger pot at home.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that looks amazing. I can't wait to try it. So we'll go back to the couch and then you'll join us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Next question for you, Dustin. We'd love to hear your elevator pitch. Do you know what that is?
I know what an elevator pitch is. An elevator pitch about what?
You, like,
About your resume.
yeah, like you meet someone in an elevator that you're like, oh, shoot, I might want to work with this person someday or work for them. They're important. Like, I need to give my 30-second elevator pitch.
Best
of-
things on your resume you'd want us to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Professionally.
Yeah.
Oh, we can take this anyway.
So I guess an interesting like summary of like my story would be that I'm fourth generation in the same niche construction industry that I've been in my entire career. So my grandfather, my father, and my great uncle have all been in the same industry, which is the drilling industry. So that's how I kind of was introduced to the field that I was in for over 17 years. And so it's very much like a family business in a sense. In fact, my brothers, both my brothers and my dad all still work at the same company in
Wow.
Western Pennsylvania.
It's a lot of wisdom to be able to pull from, which is nice.
Yeah. So my dad originally put me to work 2 weeks after I graduated high school, busting cement bags on a job site.
He's like, you start paying rent. This is how.
Well, it was more because he wanted to motivate me to do something other than like manual labor. And it had the opposite effect because I got a taste of like what the money was like to work in that industry. And so that was kind of just like off to the races. And then I became, knew I didn't want to bust cement bags the rest of my life. So I started just finding ways to like move up the ladder and in the industry and try to do something different. But the one thing I quickly discovered, but it took me a while to be able to transition out of it, was like I wasn't passionate about the work. Like it was a means to an end, and it wasn't something that like there was pride behind it, but there wasn't passion behind it. And so I always knew that like I got to do something else other than this. And I've always liked doing creative things, and I always thought that I would like to do that. I kind of like pitch myself as like a blue collar creative because like I was like working with my hands all day, but I was really into music and photography, and making little short films, things like that. And then just doing creative things for my job as I progressed up the ladder in the industry. I would do website designs, and I would do a lot of creative things just on the side for the companies I was working for. And then I kind of had always had a passion for the outdoors, but I never thought that there'd be an opportunity to kind of work in like a outdoor centric business. So after I kind of heard what, as we talked about before, what Steve was doing, it was kind of like, oh, that's interesting to me. And like, I always was like kind of torn between like building massive structures in the commercial industry is like basically like going against what the outdoor industry is like preservation. And like, so it was kind of like this conflict of two worlds. Yum.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks so good.
Yeah.
So it was like the conflict of two worlds. And so any chance I got to get out of that and to do something different, I've been looking for that for, a while. So
then that's how you kind of got drawn to Kurian Fisheries. But we're a little bit interested about the time before that too. Specifically, you mentioned to us the other day that you've worked in 26 states, or you've lived in 26 states.
No, I haven't lived in 26 states.
Oh, no. But
I've done projects in 26 different states.
So can you list those 26 different states in alphabetical order?
No, I cannot.
Can you attempt it? Doesn't have to be alphabetical, but can you list some of them?
Where were your favorites, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorites is better because you remember those. So, like, I love the American West. I mean, living there, I had access to go and did a lot of projects in different places. Like, I love Arizona is one of my favorite places. Ooh. It's a very barren desert, but I love, like, that desert landscape.
You went to school there, right?
I did. Freshman year, ASU.
And you said you hated it.
Shh, I just said your dad was on camera.
No. I mean, you said you hated the landscape.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Washington State, like right next to the ocean, mountains, trees everywhere. So it was a sharp change. But
yeah.
But I hear what you're saying though. Like there's an extreme amount of beauty. Like even just day trips up to like Sedona or even Flagstaff. Like it's gorgeous out there. Yeah,
it's very different. The other place that I love and I've worked there a few times and I've even just gone there for fun is I love West Virginia. West Virginia is one of my favorite places. Just the vastness of the wilderness and the mountains there. Yeah. And just like kind of like what you were describing about the Pacific Northwest, like it's always green. It's just got it's got a lot of rich heritage and history, which I like is cool. So those are probably like my two favorite, but I love going to big cities too. Like I worked in New York City for a long time on a couple projects. I've worked in Boston, DC. And so like, I love being in the city. I just like long term.
This is like the perfect spot for you then. Like you can zip right to the city. You can go right down to probably equal distance almost to West Virginia. Like,
right. It's cool because like it's my favorite part about cities is the cuisine, to bring it back to food, is like every region of the country has their specialty.
Yeah, definitely.
And like experiencing what they have to offer, the unique perspective is like, that's my favorite part about going to a new place.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, it's just I don't know if you would call it irony or just how perfect then that you ended up at a place that is pretty centered around food.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
I was going to say, when you made yourself into that niche, you found it here, like between the 3 businesses alone. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, we know you're a big outdoors fan. You were just talking about that. Is there any specific outdoors brand that, like, if you could be sponsored by Life for them, is there any brand in particular?
That's an interesting question. Like, I think that it would be, I was thinking about this when we were at the trade show, was like, I think the best partnership would be like with a clothing brand.
Yeah.
Because then you just don't have to worry about like,
any outfit ever.
yeah, like stuff. And it's just like, they'll just send you and then you'll just wear whatever's in. I mean, like, I don't know, like probably at one point and maybe still like Carhartt would be cool because I wear a lot of their stuff anyway. So I always thought that would be neat if like you could be a tradesperson sponsored by Carhartt. So they're like outfitting you on the job site to be able to go to work every day. So.
Yeah. I would say it's a good favorite brand for a lot of people in the outdoor space.
For sure.
And just favorite, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What we one other thing, tripping over my words here. What out of all the jobs that you worked, like what has been your favorite place to work? And you can't say Kurian Enterprises.
Like specific job I did or just like company I worked for?
It can be location, like it could be those places. It can be a job. It can be a person, whatever.
My favorite job that I've ever been on, hands down, was I did a job for this guy, in Arizona, right along the Colorado River. He had a house on the river in Lake Havasu. And it was this huge house, and his pool was failing towards the river. It was falling into the river, so we had to go in and drill some piers to keep the pool from falling in the river. So we had to build this deck over his pool and drive this drill rig out onto his backyard. And luckily, it was a huge house, so he had a pull-through RV garage.
Oh wow!
That had two doors on each end, so he could put his boat in the water and had like a boat lift. And so like for 2 months, we would just work in this guy's backyard, like on the river in the fall. So like you'd just be looking out, people be boating and fishing, and like we would go down and we would fish after work right off his dock, like right in the Colorado River. And then we were renting a house a couple houses up, all the people in the crew. So we had like a house on the river after we left working at a house on the river all day.
Yeah,
and
he sounds like somebody you want to keep in your friends list.
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
It was one of the fun. It was like one of the coolest places I've ever worked, just because like you could not be, even if your day was going bad, like you couldn't be miserable because you're just like working on the river. Similarly, I worked for on a project one time for one of the producers of Fast and Furious in Malibu. And there's like a neighborhood in Malibu called the Colony. That is like every celebrity, from Tom Hanks to whoever has houses in there. So this guy had a place that we were working at too, and so we were working right on the beach in Malibu, to like this private beach that you can't get access to. So that was pretty cool too.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, you had said about food, and here it is.
Yeah.
Let's try some.
Nicole, this looks so good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I feel
Kourtney, show us how to crack it.
Yeah, Kourtney, show us.
Yeah,
How about we all?
Can I preface this too that this is my first time cracking crab?
Wow.
Like I think I've had crab meat, because obviously if I lived in Bloomsburg, I'd be eating this all the time. But
you just live in the Pacific Northwest, which is loaded.
I know
with
it also
seafood.
doesn't make sense. Well, I think when it, like, we've talked about this on another episode too, but like when it's just so easily accessible, you don't really think about it.
True.
But now that I'm like here in Bloomsburg, I'm like, yeah, this is it.
So you should take the first bite then.
Yeah, choose your
or
weapon.
the first attempt at
Your
I
weapon
feel
of
like I should do
choice.
the drum.
Choose
or
your
the,
weapon.
The hammer, because it's like.
The hammer? Do
it
you want a big one or
is-
a little one?
I don't even. I'm gonna make a fool of myself.
Well, that's kind of the point.
But this is the wrong tool. This isn't sharp in any way.
Nicole, educate us on what we should be
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
here.
Wait a minute here.
Everybody's scared.
For these guys, I would use maybe your little hammer. But for these,
Like crack him in the middle,
For the
kinda,
claw?
or for the claw.
yeah, for the claw. And then these you can take a scissors.
Okay. All right. Hold on here.
Here's your napkin. Get sloppy.
This is gonna make a mess.
Definitely. Poor Stephen Chen's ottoman. All right.
It's coming out of your check. The cleaning bill.
All right. I'm not going to be shy. Crack that open. This is how I do it, which is not right, but either way. Get your fork, wedge your little prong up in there, and crack it, and then pull it open.
It's super.
There
I
it
mean,
is.
I guess it makes sense because it's got all the liquid in the bottom. But I'm like, it's super juicy.
Yeah.
Like,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, and then the okay. Got it.
Mhm.
I don't. Makes sense.
And I'm going to dip it because this looks amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to not
Okay.
chew into microphone.
Wait. So now I feel like I should do the same thing Kourtney did. Can I just snap it, or I'll?
Show her the right way.
This is good because anyone who's never had crab legs, just like me, they're probably in the same boat as me when they're trying it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because like I would love to buy this, I just don't know how to enjoy it in
Well,
the right way. Not that there
People
is
are
one
scared
right
to cook
way.
it too. Like
Exactly.
they don't want to
Yeah.
ruin it. So
So this is
So
your
to clarify, you're actually using like kitchen.
I just use my kitchen shears. Just go at it.
just cut right down.
See, that looked much easier than what
The
Kourtney
fork,
tried
yeah.
to do with the fork.
Break it open.
there it is.
You got it.
And you can eat all.
Do you want it?
Yeah.
Could dip it in the sauce, built-in sauce right there.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. All right, here we go. The
Just
the texture, I was like not expecting. I mean, it like, I don't know why I wasn't expecting it.
So like,
flakes.
yeah, Dungeness is a little more flakier. Like king crab's more meatier. It got like that. You're probably thinking of like king crab where you get the denser, meatier. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
It's all about you, man. You better get some.
I will get some after we're finished.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Nicole. This was
Yeah, it looks
awesome.
So
great.
yeah, one more quick question though. Like how would you, can you do this? Like if somebody is like, I want to go.
You want to do a hammer? Just
Yeah, like just let's see all the ways. That way everybody kind of gets an idea.
claw.
I feel like you'd be doing this on like a picnic table
Yeah.
at a boil, not in your living room.
With bibs, which I specifically said we needed to wear for this episode, but nobody else wanted to wear a bib with me.
Okay, so you hit it like right where the two claw parts meet.
Knife. Hit it. That's I usually use. I do a little bit more rustic. Just back of the knife, and you got it.
Wow, I'm impressed how well that little mallet worked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get me some of those.
Hands of a professional.
True, that you make it look easy.
So you can eat everything in the shell, right?
Yes.
Okay, like you just, whatever you crack open, then you just pull it all out. Because especially with these products, because they're already all.
They're fully cooked, and because we do the leg clusters, there's not any body attached to it. So in that sense, they're like clean from any of the insides.
Did you talk about the uses of the shell
So
earlier?
yeah, Nicole has hit on the stock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's
'cause-
used as like a stock.
Like to use the shells, you could do with the
Okay.
stock. Yeah, definitely.
So you would just take what you fill right in here, and then just
Give it a little boil for 30 minutes. Or
Yeah, on our website we have 2 recipes now. One of which Lemon Time Kitchen made a stock with the shells and then used it to make stuffing, the seafood stuffing, like for
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
Nice.
It's amazing. Jen made it for us for Thanksgiving, like life changing. So don't waste your crab shells. In other words.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into the fun part.
yeah.
I thought we were done.
No,
Oh.
no. This is the good stuff. This is our last round.
Okay.
I'm gonna get my notes out because they're important enough questions. It literally, on my note sheet, I shouldn't be saying that I have a note sheet. It literally says at the top of the section, the good stuff. So this is what we've been excited about.
We can roll through it pretty quick too.
Yeah.
There.
All right.
Okay, so the question number 1 of the good stuff. Dustin, you're often saying to us, you may be too young to remember, or you're calling yourself a boomer when you accidentally type something in the wrong Slack chat. So what generation do you feel you are a part of?
Oh, the boomer thing is kind of a joke to actually Adam, who works at our tree company. He makes a joke all the time to anybody who makes any type of quote unquote boomer mistake. He calls them a boomer. So
Well,
that's
he
kind of where I
himself
started.
is a very grumpy old man from what I hear.
He's a Gen Z boomer for sure. I don't know, because I've always been kind of one of those people that felt like I was born in the wrong time for my generation, and so I guess I am a millennial technically.
That answers not. We weren't going to ask you that question, but
Yeah, I am a
it's something we
millennial. I am a
wondered. Yeah,
millennial
okay.
technically,
all right.
and but I don't like to claim that I am, because it has such a bad connotation.
Everybody,
Yes, it does.
everybody likes to hate on millennials, even Gen Z.
Yeah.
I got a Gen Z.
But I am one, so I guess I got to embrace it to some degree.
Exactly.
I feel your pain.
So, generation is just, you feel that you are not a millennial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm a millennial. But I definitely can't claim, I kind of thought I was always considered myself like a old soul Renaissance man. But then when you meet someone like Steve, you're like, oh no, I'm not a Renaissance man. That's a Renaissance man.
For sure.
So no, I guess I'll just own millennial.
Okay.
It makes me feel younger.
Don't make
too.
it sound bad.
I know.
mean, yeah.
You're talking to one here. you know?
Right.
But, okay. Well, I think, speaking of because you do, I guess we have a pretty diverse team throughout all of Kurian Enterprises. And with that comes a lot of oh, I've never heard that song. Or just the other day, Steve was like, oh, have you heard the song? What is the song that I quoted?
Convoy?
Yeah, Rubber Duck.
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit. And I had no idea what you guys were talking about. I had to Google it. And then I watched the YouTube
Well,
video.
Steve and I are karaokeing it in the office.
so that was awkward for me, which I felt it didn't need to be, but I felt kind of awkward. So next question is, what's the most awkward or embarrassing thing that has happened to you so far since working with Kurian?
I don't think that there's been anything that's been embarrassing to a degree. I'll say this, I don't think it's embarrassing because I don't really, I'm kind of at the point in my life where I don't really care what people think, so I don't get embarrassed as very much. But
You're definitely not a millennial then.
yeah. But I love it when I say something that Steve thinks that everyone should know, and he kind of gives you a look like what's wrong with you. I think back to one of the first cooking videos we did, and I asked him about putting sauce on something, and he just gave me a weird look,
and I can picture the look in my head. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, but I actually enjoy those moments. I like when I make those, in his mind, faux pas of things that you should know. And
I feel like that's when you learn the most too, or think of it a different way. I feel like we're really good about that here, new perspectives and
yeah,
that's true. And I guess specifically with Steve, is there anything that Steve doesn't know that's happened or whatever, something that Steve doesn't know that you feel like
you wouldn't want him to know?
Yeah, that
I
you
wouldn't want him to know,
but you feel like you should tell him. It's a really specific question. But
yeah, it is.
It's that fear of I feel like the boss should know this, but
no, not really. I've been always pretty. Part of why I feel like my career has been a success is because I'm a pretty open and honest person, to a point where sometimes bosses I've had have been surprised at how brutally honest I am with them, with feedback. And
that's what we were looking for right there.
And
at least you know it.
I just say the stuff that I think, but that's what makes a good team, and why I've had great working relationships with all of my bosses. I've never really had a boss that I've never gotten along with, because they realize that like they can use me as a sounding board of like, here's what I'm thinking. Am I reading this right? Or, you know, because oftentimes everyone will tell their boss what they think they want to hear. And then like, but there's always risk that comes with that, right? Like you can always
Definitely.
you can always tell your boss something that they don't like, and then like it comes with repercussions.
I think that's something we appreciate about you, though, like the brutal honesty, which sounds, I guess, kind of bad, but like at the same time, like we can pitch anything at you, and like there's always a good conversation that comes from it, and like you give good, honest feedback. So
Yeah, and even just with ideas like this podcast takeover, I was like, all right, Kourtney, here's the pitch that I'm going to give Dustin. And you just like accepted the invite to the event. You didn't even have to, you were just like,
Yeah, I think it's
questions
like one of the things, like number one, it helps efficiency when everyone can just be honest and like cut through like dancing around things. But it's also like, that's where really like best ideas come from, is like if people are in a work environment where they feel like they have a voice and can speak on things, and that it's not being, that's what I love about working here first and foremost, is like it is such a team environment where it takes every person, including the ones sitting around here, like without one of us in our position, like things don't get done, and you know, everyone is a vital part of it. And I haven't had the luxury to say that I've worked in that environment all the time. I've worked for a lot of micromanagers and people that just, this is the way we do it, and that's it. And like, I've just never fit into that mold in any career that I've been. Like, I don't last long at those places before.
Clearly,
I'm like,
yeah,
moving
given
on
your
to another.
all the different jobs you've had.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I've had a lot of jobs, but I don't
didn't mean
feel
it in a
no,
bad
I
way.
know, but it does. Like and I've kind of told Steve that too. Like talking about brutal honesty is like, I have like severe ADHD, and like if I'm not working on a project that something new and like something's progressing, like I get bored very quick. So like in jobs I've had in the past have been that way, where it's like, so this is it, huh? For the next 30
So this
years?
is why Steve thought you were so cool, though, because the first thing I learned about you was that you were a stay-at-home dad, and I was like, what? Like, how, Steve, that's not your
I think
jam.
his comment about me being a stay-at-home dad and being cool, I think that was more of a dig at me than it was a compliment.
No, because he was like genuinely excited about you. So then like clearly like everything that you've done, he was like, yeah, like this guy's a go-getter. Like I want that.
Yeah, even like I came to Kurian technically after you, like, but before you came to the fishery side of things. And I remember like when you were making that move from tree care to fisheries, essentially it's all Kurian. I remember Steve being like, yeah, like Dustin took tree care and ran with it and got it great. And so, you know, he's looking for the next challenge. All right, I got one for him at 2 seafood companies. And but like he was like,
well, it's because like
it.
I knew nothing about trees at all. Still not very versed in trees after 2 years, but like, and I know nothing about seafood, the seafood business. But what my specialty has always been in any job I have is like building businesses, like helping people who own businesses take things to another level, or like think about things outside the box. Like if you're an owner of a business who's open to doing things outside the box, then I thrive in that environment, because I'm always thinking about like what to do next. So that's my, like, if I'd had to summarize like my specialty and like my career has been like, I'm like a creative problem solver, and that's like my specialty. So
that's like, I feel like that's exactly how the team operates.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
that's
makes
why
sense
it
we
works
all
so well. Yeah.
landed here. Love it.
yeah. Well, there's one question that would just, it's nice and random, but it's very exciting.
Yeah.
It was Kourtney's, and I was very excited to throw it in here. Do you?
You make me nervous with every question.
This is good.
She's good
like,
at building. Yeah.
The question is, do you think aliens are real?
Yeah.
That answer, yeah.
I love the alien question, and I love documentaries about aliens. I don't know.
So yes.
I'm like one of those.
Like,
well,
that's not
I'm
a
like one
no.
of those people who like it'd be cool to find out that they were like the same with Bigfoot. Like I'd love for Bigfoot to be real.
Oh, I would take Bigfoot over aliens.
But it's like
every day.
I mean, I'm like one of those people like, where's the proof? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if Bigfoot was real, someone would have shot one by now.
But they have all the footage of it.
Yeah.
Steve would have seen it.
They
He's
have,
in the woods.
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So yeah, like I'm like one of those. What do they call it? Like hopeless romantics. Like I think things like that are cool, but I haven't seen enough proof to convince me.
So you're like skeptical.
I'm
Until
skeptical, yeah,
given proof.
until proven. But
Yeah.
I guess I mean like
What about conspiracy theories?
I don't really get too much into things like that. Like mainly because like I've learned that like sometimes we give people too much credit. And like a lot of things just happen because they happen rather than like it being some big diabolical thing. Is like I've just, worked with so many different diverse type of people. It's like, certain
little
things
bit of
you're like,
everything.
I know people gossip, love to gossip. Like how could you keep something like that a secret? So yeah. It's fun to consider though, and
Yeah.
to talk about.
So
Yeah.
so the too long didn't read answer for the millennials is aliens, sure, if there's proof. Conspiracy theories, not gonna bother with them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, last question I guess we have for you then. What makes you feel inspired?
What makes me feel
Or
inspired?
gets you fired up for the day.
I like surrounding myself with people who are like motivated to do more. That's why I like working for Steve, is because like he's never content and wants to do something all the time. He's impossible to keep up with, but it's like fun to try. But also just like my biggest thing that like drives me is like trying to be an example for my kids and like trying to navigate raising them in like an ever-changing world that's like so different than the one I grew up in even.
Definitely.
And how the exponential growth of technology and how that's going to affect it. Like that's like a crazy thing to do every day in itself. Like you're just navigating how to raise children the best you can. Like, and that's one thing like I discover everyone discovers as a parent is like you just figure it out. Like, you just roll with it and like you don't really know what you're doing.
It's awesome working with people who have kids like just a couple years older than my own, because like I'm seeing them doing it and I'm like, their kids are amazing. Like this is how I want my kids to like grow up and be. And I'm just like, I'm just going to learn everything I can from them basically on how to do it right.
Yeah, so you get like free parenting advice from work
Yeah.
too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was fun, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for cooking for us, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Delicious crab. I was about to say lobster, but I know better. I'm excited to eat more of it. And
Yeah.
Dustin, you gotta get in there. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that wraps up today's episode.
I think so. Definitely.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Dustin, for letting us do
Sure.
this.
Thanks for being gentle.
yeah, we kind of psyched you out a little bit.
Yeah.
Trying to
I
make
was
you
very
nervous.
psyched out. That worked.
And then we went a little easy on you.
Yeah.
Not
thank
in the
you.
next podcast takeover though.
Okay.